So they should be back before long. Raditz finished. Goku, leaning against the house's doorframe, nodded. I mean, obviously you went to help when it looked like they were in trouble, but you must have some serious emotional control to stay calm up until then, watching them getting the crap kicked out of them. He scratched his head. You had a violent childhood, I guess. My earliest memory is a war zone, around the time you were born. Vegeta was eating someone he'd killed. Raditz shrugged. Just a little violent, yeah. Right. Any idea what Pan did at the end there? Not a clue. From the private journals of Son Gohan. Pan is an interesting case. I think this is at least partly due to her genetics. Not only is she the first Quarter Saiyan we've encountered, she's also the child of two extremely powerful members of their respective races. At her time of conception, Videl was one of the strongest humans around, and I had already achieved Super Saiyan 3. I still don't understand how high ki levels retroactively influence one's genes, but apparently they do. Whatever the cause, a few subsequent training sessions with her have at least let me gauge the effects with some precision. She's unable, for whatever reason, to access the standard Super Saiyan forms. However, the same power resides within her, merely without the normal structure. She has the potential to raise her power as high as any Super Saiyan, but is entirely dependent on her willpower at the time. I don't think I can put her under enough stress to bring out the kind of power it took to kill Cell in normal training, at least not without risking serious injury, and as her father I can't allow myself to do that. Anyway, her base power always returns to its previous level when her transformation wears off, though of course she can continue to train and increase it as normal. But as to how far her hidden strength can take her, I can only speculate. It did take her to low Super Saiyan 2 levels fighting Cell, which in itself is astounding. Will it max out at the limits of a Super Saiyan 2? The third form is so otherworldly, separate from the others. I don't think it can be achieved by normal means. Does her well of power extend to that? What about the demigod potential residing within a normal Super Saiyan? When she's older and more experienced, will she be able to reach that level? Only time will tell, I suppose. As for myself, I continue to train. If another enemy like Beerus shows up, I can't be unprepared. Otherworld check-in station. Next. King Yemma looked up, blinking. Haven't I seen you before? Undoubtedly. Cell grumbled, glancing disdainfully around the Judge of the Dead's office. But that was a different me. Don't worry, no resurrection shenanigans. Good. The giant ogre breathed a sigh of relief. Those Dragon Balls always make so much paperwork for me. Do you know those hooligans have resurrected an entire planet's population not once, but twice? They screwed up that badly, Cell laughed. An attendant coughed. Sir? The line's backing up. Oh, right. Yes, of course. Yemma stammered. Anyway, he slammed his stamp down on Cell's file. Off to hell with you already. Trailing a stream of obscenities, Cell allowed himself to be marched off. Alright. Yemma coughed loudly. Next! And be quick about it. Hell. Cell, mooching gloomily past the lake of blood, looked up with some curiosity to see himself approaching, the other him looking curiously at his surroundings. I figured he'd show up sooner or later, though the fact that he reached his perfect form as well is impressive. You too, huh? He asked. Oh, shut up. The new arrival muttered sulkily. Break sauntered into her dorm room, whistling as she shut the door behind her. The phone rang. Launch. So, how'd it go with Trunks? It didn't, Mom. Break sighed. Don't ask, alright? I've got to study for once. Screw that. If you got into university, you've done the hard part. Launch countered. Go on, tell me about it. Was it that bad? Not really. I mean, sure, I figured it might be a cliche, but after a few failed relationships, hey, there's the childhood friend all grown up. But what? Most people don't talk to their mothers about this kind of thing. Most people's mothers aren't me. Come on. Fine. It wasn't a terrible date or anything, but he's just too distracted with all the secret projects and business deals and whatever other crap they've got going on. He really wasn't there. She hopped into the air, hovering cross-legged at head height and flicking on the TV with a telekinetic nudge. I mean, he barely looked at me all evening. So yeah, that's not happening again. Shame. He was such a good friend to you growing up. He still is a good friend. But that's it. Ooh,
friend-zoned.
Blake frowned. You know, the more I think about it, it is weird to be talking about this with you. I'm going to hang up now. Also because wrestling is on. Launch's sly grin was practically audible.
Right, I'll just let you get on with watching two sweaty, half-naked guys grapple with each other.
Someday, I swear I'll fly over there and kick your ass, Grandma! Blake yelled as Launch hung up, giggling. Parents. Officer Blake sauntered into Anderson's office, dumping a pile of papers on her desk and saluting half-heartedly. Sergeant? Oh, hell. Anderson muttered, rustling through the stack. Is this all today? A nod. Of course it is. Sum it up for me. Well, the big one's an assault case. The Gold Star gang out in full force. Right, we've had a warrant out on them for a while. Most of them mid-class B power, right? Yeah, a real handful. Blake nodded. Anyway, it was another highway robbery. Target, Lance Fitzgerald, 78. Former wushu instructor. Don't tell me, I know how this goes. She interrupted. 7 thieves versus 1 retired old master. I'll cancel the warrant. She began to scrawl signatures and checkboxes. Just tell me what state he left them in. Well, they're going to need to stay in hospital for a few days before they can appear in court. Blake was again cut off, but this time by Marin crashing through the wall and leveling the desk between the 2 police officers with the impact of her fall. Anderson sighed, putting down her pen on what now amounted to empty space, letting it fall to the ground. Thank you for destroying a good hour's worth of paperwork, but I do hope you're going to pay for that wall. And I hope not, Marin answered, shaking herself down as she stood up. After all, I was the one punched through it. The one you want to arrest is the one who did the punching. Not that it hurt. I should have dodged it, to be honest. Really should pay attention more. She took a step back as a large man in camo-patterned jeans barreled in after her, striking her leg out and tripping him before throwing a chop into the back of his neck as he fell, putting him down, as they say, for the count. Which is that guy, by the way? She fished around in his pocket, producing a small object the police did not, of course, recognize as a Dragon Ball. The 3-star, to be precise. Ah, damn, had to go through a lot of trouble for this thing. Miss, what's that? Blake asked pointedly. Marin waved this away. Oh, just something he took from me. She neglected to mention the other 12 aggressors back in the bar across the street, figuring what the police didn't know wouldn't hurt them. Got it back now. All good. Be seeing you. We'll need to ask you a few questions. Anderson began, but the victor of the strange battle vanished midway through her sentence. We should get the pursuit team after her or something. Don't bother, Blake said, pushing his glasses back up his nose. I'm on the team. Key approaching low class A. And? Couldn't see a thing. He shrugged. Way too fast. No point chasing someone like that. Wonderful. She frowned, massaging her forehead. Alright, I'll need a damage report form, somebody to remove the suspect from the floor, a repair crew for the wall, and a desk. Like, say, yours. I didn't steal it, Marin protested. I took it as my rightful prize after emerging victorious in a traditional bar brawl. If it involves 1 or more roundhouse kicks, it wasn't a brawl. Pan retorted, smirking. She held up the 6-star ball. Anyway, got this at an antique shop, 25 zenny. Much less interesting. They were stood atop the Guardian's lookout, along with Kariza, who supposedly had to wrestle an indeterminate amount of crocodiles to find the 2-star ball in the swamp. He tossed it into the air absent-mindedly. I guess we have to wait for Oob to get back with his, then we can go out for the other 3. Don't bother. Oob called down from above, descending onto the lookout with the remaining 4 Dragon Balls cradled in his arms. Sorry, never had to hunt for these things before and I got carried away. He landed between his 3 friends. So, shall we start? Sure, let's go. Marin, holding her Dragon Ball out behind her, ran at Oob with her other arm raised to block. Pan and Kariza did the same, charging him from all directions. Smiling, he threw his collection into the air, then spun himself into a whirlwind of motion as the others reached him. A second or so later, he peered a few feet away from them, all 7 spheres floating in front of him. Damn it! Pan growled. When'd you get that good? If you can't be bothered to fight me for a couple of years straight, you lose track of my progress, he answered smugly. So anyway, guess I win? Seems that way. Kariza shrugged. All yours then. Any idea what you're going to wish for? Still not entirely sure. Oob slowly ran a hand through his hair. Why don't I just take the first one and we can make the second as a group? Anything you guys want? That's the problem with almost unlimited choice, Marin sighed. What do we ask for? Various possibilities were thrown out and shot down just as quickly over the next couple of minutes. Eternal life? No, eternal youth! Infinite power! The dragon couldn't kill an enemy stronger than Dende. I don't think it can grant power more than his either. Telepathy! You want to know what everyone secretly thinks of you? That'll ruin some friendships. More wishes! That won't work. It can't generate more wishing power than it has. Resurrect Elvis! He died a long time ago. Plus, who'd believe it was him? World peace! How would that even work? Mind control so nobody declares war anymore? Sounds kinda sinister. Oob snapped his fingers. I've got it. I'm going to ask now. You guys keep thinking about this second, I guess. He let the Dragon Balls drop, holding out a hand over them. Eternal Dragon. Come out and stuff. Hopefully soon. He paused. Nothing's happening, did that? A crack of thunder heralded the sky rapidly darkening, and an orange glow began to emanate from within the treasured artifacts. So, what are you going to wish for? Pan asked over the roar of otherworldly energy as a bright dragon-shaped silhouette burst skywards out from the Dragon Balls. Majin Buu's memories, Oob said firmly. I only know half the story. If I was really him in a former life, I want to know what it was like. Won't that be a bit much to have suddenly jammed into your brain? He caused a lot of death, and you'll remember it as if you did it. Sorry, I just need to know. He turned back to the forming dragon, shielding his eyes against the radiance. By now, it was starting to give way to the majestic creature itself. Hey, is it supposed to look like that? Marin asked warily. No. Kuriza replied, blinking a couple of times. No, it is not. This dragon was dark blue and winged, overall more in the style of a western dragon than an eastern one. Coils of cloying smoke surrounded it, slowly spreading out to engulf the entire surface of the lookout. Kuriza cleared his throat, calling up to the razor-toothed apparition. Is it Shenron's day off or something? Who are you?
Name's Kokuen.
The dragon replied offhandedly, speaking in a mocking voice.
So you're the tossers who've been making all these wishes the past few decades. Well done, you've only gone and killed everybody.
Wait, what? Hold on, aren't you going to grant any wishes or something? Pan demanded. I mean, that's how it works.
Screw that.
Come on, since when do eternal dragons refuse to grant wishes?
Bite me.
Kokuen spat.
Anyway, you might want to look down at your Dragon Balls. Well, I say that, they've never been yours from the start. They're ours. Not that you could have known.
They glanced down at his words, and were presented with an alarming sight. The balls were beginning to crack, and further steams of black smoke were billowing out into the open air.
Bloody hell, they really are full up. It only took a few trillion years.
Kokuen muttered.
The hell kind of wishes you been making?
He stared off to the side blankly, as if reading from something only he could see.
Wait, how many resurrections? At the same time? Oh wow, fantastic. You poor sods.
A scuffle of feet heralded Dende and Mr. Popo arriving outside. What happened? Dende yelled. What did you do? I don't know! Oob shouted defensively. We just summoned the dragon, but got this guy instead.
Well, my time's about up.
Kokuen sighed.
I would explain what's going on, but you're all about to die, so it'd be kind of pointless. Plus, the confuzzlement on your faces is hilarious.
That's not a real...
Bye now, kiddies. Have fun being torn limb from limb.
With that, the strange dragon itself dissolved into more smoke, which gathered itself into a vortex centered over the spot where the Dragon Balls had previously lain. Barely 2 seconds later, the smoke was sucked inwards, the cloud shrinking rapidly and into a single point, and folding in on itself into the air was once again clear. Standing where the Dragon Balls had been positioned was a group of 7 individuals, perhaps. People was not quite adequate, possibly. A few of them had slightly reptilian features or an odd aura, and all of them were attired oddly. 7 in all. They were standing in the same formation as the Dragon Balls had been placed in. Slowly, the lead stranger took a step forwards, shaking her head. Adjusting to a material body always gives me a headache, she muttered. Or maybe it's the sensation of being crushed into an object the size of a small rock and instantly exploding out of it. Hakaishin Temple. Whis, halfway through his daily round of the temple's grounds, froze mid-step. An expression of purest anguish crossed his face. No, he whispered. Not so soon. Not again! He swung around, swinging a punch that atomized both the wall and an orbiting moon that happened to be directly behind it. No more! He hissed.
strength to go with the flow, holding it in my own hand. Then I want to laugh like I lost my mind, usually confused all the time. I can't get no satisfaction in activity, sitting heavily like stones upon my shoulders, weighing down on me. So let's spread our wings to bigger, better things, flying to another world. Let's go. When every door was locked away, with every possibility. Okay, just another day. I break the wall that's in my way. I'm shooting past that limit break. I'm shouting, this is just a piece of cake. Just wait and see how strong I'll be. I'll reach invincibility. This is Dragon Ball Super. Just tell the gods I'm blowing them away.
The 7 strangers spread out, strolling casually across the lookout. The leader, evident by the way the others waited for her signal to disperse, approached the startled group who'd summoned the dragon, most of whom edged nervously behind Pan and Oob. "You," she said, jabbing a sharpened, claw-like fingernail at Pan. "Native. Thanks for summoning the dragon so often." Sure. Pan held out her hands in a placating gesture. "Can you please explain what's going on here? I'm totally lost." "As am I," Dende chipped in. "I've never heard of Dragon Balls doing anything like this before." "Fine," the woman replied in a bored voice. "I'll indulge you. We've got time after all." She stood easily 7 feet tall, with a wiry frame and slightly haunched gait. A green, almost floor-length jacket was draped over her shoulders, and one's gaze was constantly being drawn to her hair, which was composed of a pair of large brown locks hanging over her ears, and a swept-back swath of blonde in the center that formed itself into arcing spikes. The initial impression was that she was human, but a second glance revealed that this was unlikely. Her eyes were blank red orbs, her teeth were jagged fangs, and her fingers in fact ended not in claw-like nails, but actual claws. "I'll give you the short version," she barked. "Magic has to be powered somehow. Dragon Balls use positive energy to grant wishes, but have to create an equal amount of negative energy. Enough builds up pretty quickly with huge wishes like yours, and it creates a breach in the walls of your universe, allowing us to get through. Us being the Shadow Dragons, of which I'm the strongest. Alpha Shenron, pleased to meet you. Though of course, not for long." "Not for long?" Pan asked, taking a slow step backwards. "Oh, of course. Don't worry, we won't kill you unless you attack first. But once a powerful shadow dragon like me gets into a universe, I start generating negative energy of my own. Eventually, the breach gets wide enough for the Eternal to stick a hand in. The Eternal, by the way, being the greatest being in the entire cosmos, and the one who created us. And the Eternal will kill us all? Not just you, this whole universe. And when I say kill, eat is more accurate." She grinned toothily. "That's what our master does see, and we are its heralds." Pan knew this wasn't too important given what she'd just heard, but it was annoying her. "Have to say, you don't look much like dragons." "Yeah, that'd be all the inhabitants of this planet making wishes on these things. Warped our image towards theirs. Normally, we look a lot more like the Shenron you know. Honestly, I was expecting Namek, but this is okay. Nameks don't warp your image, for one thing." "Huh? Why?" She frowned. "And why the hell do the Dragon Balls do that anyway? The Namekians don't know anything about this." "Sorry, bored now," Alpha replied, turning away and marching off. "Have fun with your last day or two, however long it takes before I can get the breach wide enough." The other Shadow Dragons ceased their idle inspection of the lookout and fell into formation behind Alpha, following her to the edge. Pan clenched her fists. "So the only way to stop you is to kill you." "That makes sense, wouldn't it?" Alpha called back over her shoulder. "Then get ready!" Or springing to life around her, Pan leapt at the departing group, charging an energy blast in each hand. "Kronos," Alpha muttered. "Attend to it." One of the other dragons nodded, appearing directly in front of Pan the next moment. He was clothed in all black, with a mop of hair hanging over pale, glowing eyes. The air warped and folded around him, and tendrils of shadow curled around his feet, until one could scarcely tell where his legs ended and the ground began. Before Pan could release either charged attack, Kronos reached up and tapped her on the head with his forefinger. She froze, energy vanishing, then flung herself to the floor, screaming and writhing.
I've just inflicted upon you the pain of every hurt you've ever suffered, physical or mental, during your life,
he said in flat tones. Bastard! Kariza hissed, ascending to his fifth form and leaping at Kronos with a flying kick. The Shadow Dragon sighed, outline flickering slightly. Kariza was hurled violently to the floor, cracking the stone beneath.
And if you must know,
Kronos muttered as he turned and walked back to the others.
I created a paradox zone in the instant of your attack, allowing several versions of me from different points in the following second to travel to that moment and strike you simultaneously. I trust you will require no further demonstrations.
Indeed, no one else was eager to attack. Well, anyway, it seems the natives don't like to roll over, Alpha decided. I guess we'll go with the tower, let them come to us. That's always a good way to kill time. Hephaestus? It shall be done, rasped another Shadow Dragon, this one armored in black and red, a flame pattern emblazoned on his chest plate. With that, the 7 strange beings took off in unison, vanishing almost instantly from sight. Dende rushed over to the downed pair of fighters, applying his healing magic as quickly as possible. Did you feel their powers? He asked. Absolutely enormous! Even more worrying, the lead one, Alpha. Marin said as she helped them up. I couldn't feel her ki at all, and I don't see why she'd hide it when the rest aren't. Which means... Kariza scowled, returning to his natural form. Which means, more than likely, she's got divine ki. This is serious. Dende gave a sudden yelp, then did the trademark, looking slightly upward stance of one who's just been telepathically contacted. What? Yours too? Did anything come out? Good. Yes, I said too. Look, it's a long story. I'll get back to you. He looked down. That was Muri. The Namekian Dragon Balls had just shattered. No Shadow Dragons came out, but it's a pretty safe bet it's linked to this. And just like me, he can't feel that power anymore. It's like the ability to create Dragon Balls has gone from this world. You know what that means, right? Pan nodded. If the Dragon Balls are gone for good, which might just be the case, no more second chances. Anybody dies, they're gone for good. Hakaishin Temple. Beerus, wake up! Now! Beerus yawned. It's Lord Beerus to you. The God of Destruction found himself abruptly hauled out of bed. Not today, it isn't. We snapped. Beerus woke up instantly, springing to his feet. This is bad then. I can't remember the last time I saw you serious. A grave threat has emerged which could potentially spell the end of your entire universe, we said brusquely. Can I make myself any more clear than that? No, I gotcha. Beerus grumbled, cleaning out his ear. So we gotta beat somebody up? Trust me, old friend. If you could handle this enemy, I would not be worried. And if I could handle it alone, I would not have disturbed you. Somebody you can't beat? You've gotta be kidding. Beerus protested as he followed Whis out of his sleeping chamber. Whis shrugged. It is entirely possible, though not at all certain, that the two of us could overcome the Shadow Dragons that have appeared at the moment. However, attacking them will be like kicking a hornet's nest, and the two of us cannot handle the whole swarm, believe me. Wait. We're not going to... We are indeed. Whis answered, clicking his heels as they arrived at a seemingly empty doorway. You, as one of the 12 Hakaishin, can call a council. With the combined mind of the gods of destruction behind me, I may be able to save this universe. Beerus closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. Alright, but I can't guarantee that they'll agree to help. All I ask is that you try. South City. Red Oni to Blue Oni. I'm at 450 meters and closing. The crouching figure whispered, observing the rotation of the security camera overhead and judging when the time would be right to slip through. The human guard was no problem, but the camera was pirated Capsule Corporation tech, and Mike spotted a glimpse of his movement.
Blue to red. Copy that.
The voice replied over the radio.
I'm ready for extraction if you screw up again.
Can't! Red Oni muttered. Only one of us screwed up that last job, and it wasn't me.
Will you focus?
Blue hissed. Fine! The Blackguard operative stole a glance around the corner. I think I've got the camera's pattern. 3, 2, 1. Hey, kid! A distressingly familiar voice called from behind him, shattering the silence. Red Oni practically jumped to the ceiling, spinning and seeing a smiling, moderately spiky-haired man in a business suit waving to him. Gohan! The infiltrator spluttered. Do you realize what you... Intruder alert! Intruder alert! The guard came sprinting around the corner, Red immediately dropping him with a spinning kick to the head. Gohan, you moron! Goten, what are you doing sneaking in a place like... Let's go, talk later. Goten growled through his balaclava.
Blue Oni to red Oni.
The voice chimed in.
You're blown. I'll cover, you haul ass. Don't worry, I'll go easy on him.
This was followed by a series of deafening explosions from outside. Alert! Priority 1 alert! This facility is under attack! Goten? What's... Gohan began, but Goten strode up and grabbed him by the wrist before he finished speaking. I said talk later! Teleport us out if you're all ready! They materialized outside, directly behind the source of the commotion. Vegeta Jr., aka Blue Oni, was hurling fireballs at the compound and causing the occasional explosion, all while dodging a cannonade of energy beams the guards were firing in return. Well, guess who screwed it up again? He shouted back over his shoulder. Goten rolled his eyes. I was doing fine, then my brother showed up actually. He jerked a thumb at Gohan, waving politely from behind him. Seems he's got something important to say. Vegeta shrugged. Alright. One thing though, Gohan's face probably got caught on camera. He frowned, flexing his fingers and giving off a strange emanation of ki. There. Just fired a low-power shockwave through the whole place. Works kinda, but not quite like an EMP burst. Fried all their cameras. When'd you learn to do something like that? Gohan spluttered. Not long after I started this job. Alright, let's go. Vegeta batted away an incoming ki beam, flying off after the others and easily outpacing their pursuers in short order. Once they were safely ensconced in a nearby cave, Gohan looked at the pair of them up and down. So, what are you two doing sneaking into a private research lab out in South City? Government hired us, Goten explained. It's pretty much how we make a living, with our speed and ki control, not to mention the kind of teamwork only occasionally sharing a mind can give you. We make pretty good spies, and we picked up the rest pretty quickly. The pair of secret agents removed their balaclavas, causing Gohan to all but collapse in shock. Duh! Your face! And your hair! It took them a second to realize what he was talking about. Goten had a scraggly, almost beard, and Vegeta's hair was slicked back, hanging down over his shoulders, and not spiked at all. What happened to you guys? Oh, this. In quite an alarming fashion, Goten fired an energy blast at his own face, pulling his barrier back only to just cover his skin, neatly singeing off the unwanted facial hair, and temporarily obscuring the bottom half of his head in an explosion. Yeah, I've been working a while now and I keep forgetting. And this is just hair gel, Vegeta added. Can't really fit my normal hair under a hood. I mean, I could cut a hole for it or something, but a feature that distinctive kinda defeats the purpose of being stealthy. His eyes narrowed, sending a wave of power up through his hair and giving it the jolt required to shake off the gel and stand back up in his usual flame point. Better. Anywho, Goten turned back to his older brother. What's up? Somebody wants to kill us all, I guess? That or Bulma's throwing a party. Gohan nodded. The former. I don't know exactly myself. It will be explained when I've gathered everyone. Now please, come with me. East City. The commentator leaned forward, shouting through his mustache. After a devastating roundhouse, Dog is somehow back on his feet, and back on the offensive! I don't know how much of this break can endure. The glaring stage lights bent down on the small, hot fighting ring, the yells of the small crowd only overshadowed by the rhythmic clash of knuckle on forearm. Break let Mad Dog Brody's punches rain down, allowing a couple to slip through her guard and hit her shoulders and head. She barely felt the impacts, but played up her reaction, grunting and falling back until she was backed into the corner of the ring. Too many easy victories would get boring. She had to play the crowd, give them something to remember. If she was honest, her job was more entertainer than fighter a lot of the time. Okay, about now should do it. She opened her guard, drawing a fist back slowly as if to attack, and the large, extensively tattooed boxer lunged, landing a heavy blow to her stomach. She let the impact carry her back into the ropes, slumping against the edge, and Brody stood back, grinning stupidly. Hey! Break slurred, climbing to her feet and patting her unmarked stomach. That it? What? Her opponent began, but got no further. Break's fist probably touched his face at some point, but he couldn't tell. All he knew was that he was now halfway through a wall with a cracked jaw, which is not a pleasant place to be. Break exhaled, wiping a sheet of sweat from her forehead, more from the hot, cramped room than any kind of exertion due to fighting, then clapped her hands together, nodding to the cue by the ring. Next. 21 fighters later. A knock came on her trailer door, and she swung it open, tearing into a cooked steak she had in one hand as she talked. Gohan? What you doing here? Gohan smiled politely, having decided to be a little more normal in his sudden appearances after last time. Well, I think there's some serious trouble afoot. Afoot? Who even says... Never mind. She inhaled the rest of her impromptu meal. Somebody wants to blow up the planet, right? Try the universe. Break whistled. Whew, that's new. I mean, we've had all the planets in the universe tried, but just the whole damn thing? Alright, I just got off. Might as well. You might want to change first. Gohan scratched his head. I mean, your parents are going to be in there, and it'd be kind of awkward meeting them in your underwear. Underwear? She scoffed. Listen, this is a professional fighter's outfit, and I'm wearing about twice as much as any of the guys. Believe me. She paused. But yeah, you've probably got a point. She vanished from the doorway into the recesses of her trailer. Be with you in a sec. So, how'd you end up here anyway? Gohan asked, raising his voice slightly over the wrestling. I mean, you were going to university, right? So do you just suck at keeping track of your friends and family, or what? Apparently, he laughed. I mean, I've been meeting Goten pretty regularly, but I only just found out he's been doing spy stuff. Wait, spy stuff? Can you answer my question, please? She sighed. Fine. Yes, I was studying nanobiology. Got my bachelor's, actually. And it's just a hobby. I always felt better with fighting as my actual job. Gohan gave a puzzled look. I think you've got those two the wrong way around. What do you know? She emerged, jumping down and kicking the trailer door shut as she went. This better? Gohan coughed. Not really. I mean, surely that only just qualifies as a shirt. Screw you. Let's go. West City Hospital. Gohan's head peered cautiously around the door. Baby? Is this a bad time? Gohan. The cyborg sighed. I'm performing knee surgery. How could this not be a bad time? He raised his hand. Nurse, check that anesthetic level. Gohan fell silent for a second, then came to a conclusion, stepping fully into the room and neatly dodging the pair of medical staff that tried to usher him out. More to the point, why are you performing knee surgery? Baby made a tiny incision, hands totally steady. Because I find it amusing. It really wasn't very hard to pick up. Human medicine is shockingly primitive. Really, you'd find this kind of stuff in any first aid kit back on plant. Or Vegeta, should I say. He goaded. Gohan frowned. Not in the mood, baby, nor do I associate myself with that barbaric race. I was joking. Unfortunately, I'm not. The universe might be in danger, so I'm rounding up everyone I can track down. The entire universe? Seriously? Baby calmly put his surgical instruments down, throwing off his gloves, mask, and apron. Somebody take over! But the patient won't know the difference as long as somebody gets the damn bookhand out of his leg before he wakes up! Baby retorted. Alright, lead the way. Don't you have to train for years to be a doctor? Gohan asked. Even if you're smart enough to learn everything in weeks. Well, I wouldn't call myself qualified, exactly. Baby replied, smirking. But once I figured everything out, I just walked in and started operating on people. First, they realized they couldn't stop me. Then they realized I was actually quite good at it, and stopped bothering to try. Eventually. And then the Shadow Dragons just upped and left. Baron finished recounting. Gohan had finished gathering up everyone he could think of who might be useful, and the whole group now stood in an empty meeting room in Capsule Corp. Yeah, well, their key was pretty hard to miss, up till they went into hiding just now. Raditz said from the corner of his room. I think it's pretty obvious what we gotta do. Punch things? Break guessed. Goku laughed. No mystery whose child she is. But yeah, that's about it. Are we ready though? Goten wondered. I mean, you said one of them probably has divine power, and the rest have pretty insane ki anyway. Can we beat them? I'm not sure, Raditz admitted. Might have something that'd help. Pan, wanna get stronger? Huh? Sure? Pan raised an eyebrow, unsettled by the suddenness of this. Well, I mean, you don't have to, he mumbled. I mean, we've got Gohan and it wouldn't be pleasant. I'd be surprised if there was anybody crazy enough besides me to try and put themselves through it. He realized he was sounding extremely suspect. Well, Okay, I was thinking of ways to get stronger on short notice. And so I thought, well, we used to turn into Ozaru. Now we turn into Super Saiyans. Who's to say we can't do both at the same time? So I asked Bulma for a machine that generated Blutz waves, trying to get my tail to grow back. And? Gohan prompted. Raditz shook his head. Nothing. I guess you really can only regrow it as a child. But I still have one, so you're offering me a shot, Pan finished. Hey, I've got a tail too, Gohan pointed out. Don't I count? Raditz smiled. Sure, it's just you're already the strongest one here. I was offering Pan the chance first, but you can try it if you like. And to tell the truth, I don't want more people doing this than have to. Neither of you have learned to control the Ozaru, and when you add the Super Saiyan Rage to that, he shrugged. You have a point. Gohan scratched his head. Well, like you said, I'm pretty strong already. I don't want to risk not being able to fight at all because I lose control trying your idea. I better see how I match up to that leader of theirs first. Good thinking. Gohan turned to his daughter. Pan? You're pretty much an adult now, so I won't tell you what to do. Going to try it? Pan remained silent for a second, swaying slightly, then shook her head. Like my dad said, if it doesn't work, you'll have to knock me out or something, and I'll be even less help than I am now. I want to see what I can do against them anyway. Then if we're completely outmatched, I'll give it a go. Sounds good. Raditz nodded. Then unless there's anything else, we don't know exactly how long it'll take them to let their boss thing in to eat us all, so let's move out. Launch jumped to her feet. There is one thing. Who's going? I'm going to be blunt. We need our absolute best fighters for this one, and that doesn't include me. We can't afford anybody else hanging around slowing them down. Fair enough. Vegeta continued, pointing to various fighters as he named them. How about Goten and I, Break, Raditz, Goku, Gohan, Pan, Oob, and 18. I hope no one will object because they don't want to fight or fear for their life. If we don't do everything we can, we may as well lie down and wait for the end. 18 stood, turning for the door. Well said. No objections here. Let's go. The 9 chosen warriors landed atop a plateau, overlooking a dusty plain. They did seem to encounter a lot of those. This is about where I last felt their ki before it disappeared, Pan whispered. Despite the lack of any response from the Shadow Dragons so far, the tension in the air was practically sickening. Goku's experience was evident here. By contrast, he was clearly in his element. Well, I think it's a pretty safe bet they're still here. I mean, that thing's pretty hard to miss. That thing was a massive cylindrical tower made of some kind of smooth black rock. It was divided into 7 sections, bottom to top, upon which were carved an enormous kanji, the symbols for earth, hell, forge, fire, ice, time, and one. Raditz folded his arms, scanning the symbols. Huh. Well, that's nice and ominous. It'd be kind of weird at this point if they weren't in there. Alpha, seated at the top of the tower, hopped over to the edge and peered down at the Earth's defenders. Yep, this key. It can't be a coincidence we were summoned here. These guys, short of the Hakaishin himself, must be the strongest this universe has got. She placed a finger on her right temple, closing her eyes. Gaia, can you hear me? Perfectly clearly. Okay, you were on scouting duty. Anything I should know about these guys, or should I just let you handle them? Their power and abilities, taken by themselves, do not seem to indicate a threat to one such as you. However, it is not their strength at any given time that should concern me. It is their ability to improve. They can increase their power at a phenomenal rate, and overcome the most overwhelming of foes, particularly the full-blooded Saiyans. It would be extremely unwise to engage them directly, based on past events. Thanks for the heads up. Guess I'll just show them the door. I'll see what I can do with both charges. Then you think you can handle the rest? Of course. Right then. The invading group was now fast approaching the tower, so Alpha leapt, landing with a mighty impact directly between them and the arched doorway. Greetings, and hello again to a couple of you. She stood up. Here's the deal. You have to kill me to stop the negative energy buildup. The longer I'm alive, the closer we get to the eternal eating your universe. Bad news is, I'm going to be hiding at the top of this tower. And don't even try skipping to the top, because we know our enchantments, and it'd take you months to break them, which is time you don't have. Goten grunted. Alright, we get it. It's simple enough. We climb the tower, beat up your friends along the way, then get to you. But your henchmen could have told us that. So what are you doing here? Just practicing your evil gloating? Or you want to twirl your mustache at us? Cute. She raised her right arm above her head. Actually, I'm just here to make things more interesting. See, I have an ability I call my Void Banisher. Pretty multi-purpose. I store 1 charge in each arm. Takes a few days to recharge. Your point? Raditz growled, tensing up slightly as her arm began to vibrate, as if being viewed from multiple angles at once. Alpha grinned. Have patience. This is the fun part. Clenching her right fist, she swung her arm back down towards the ground, smashing it into the rock beneath. Right? Banisher! Contrary to what they expected, it only created a small crater, but evidently the effects went beyond the physical. As soon as she spoke the words, the world shuddered, color and proportion skewing off into wild psychedelia for a moment. Things quickly returned to normal though, leaving Oob to ask the inevitable question. What the hell was that? That, children, was one of my 2 charges, Alpha replied smugly. In this case, I chose to use as little finesse as possible, and basically just punched your universe right in its timeline. So now not only is space tearing, but time too. Let me guess, that makes it even easier for your Eternal to get in, Pan said grimly. Yep, Alpha laughed. You can't have more than an hour or 2 now, so have fun with that. Gohan took a step in front of the group. Not if I can help it. I'll follow the trace your attack left. I can sense the wound you made, though I have to strain my key sense and 5-dimensional perceptions to their limits. And if I can find it, I can close it. You sure, Dad? Pan asked, turning and looking up at him. That sounds kinda dangerous. Gohan smiled. Don't worry, I'll be fine. If I can even get there, that is. I don't even know where there is, or if it's even a place as we know the term. He frowned, raising 2 fingers to his forehead. It'll be like both shifting and instant transmission at once. A little like my God Step technique, but at a much larger distance, and with even greater degree of integration. Do what you can, guys, and stay alive. I'll be back as quick as I can. Turning Super Saiyan as a precaution against whatever he might encounter upon arrival, he vanished. Alpha managed to keep a straight face for nearly 5 seconds, before erupting into roaring laughter. Oh, perfect! That look of determination! She calmed down, wiping away a tear of mirth. The fool. That's an impressive teleportation ability, but he's just transported himself straight through the rift, and outside the universe. And trust me, no mortal can survive there. What? Pan choked. You're saying if he's still alive, he won't be for long. Alpha chuckled. Your laws of physics don't apply out there. Your body simply won't hold together. Damn you! Goku yelled, leaping over his allies' heads at Alpha, Raditz a microsecond behind him. Alpha spun, dodging between the 2 veteran warriors charged as their auras ignited. One red, one gold. A fist drew back on one side. A sword flashed out of its scabbard on the other. She skidded back, sliding out of the path of their attacks before raising her left hand. Her voice deepened for a moment as she spoke. Left Banisher. The Saiyan's images flickered for a moment, and then they were gone. No explosions, screams of rage or anguish, no fireworks or flashy burst of light. There was simply empty air where Goku and Raditz had once stood. Alpha lowered her arm. See? Like I said, last time I used no finesse at all and hit your entire plane of existence at once. This time I focused it all on the 2 of them and was able to achieve forcible, unwilling remote teleportation. A feat beyond even most other Eternal Dragons. She turned away. Still, on the bright side, for you at least, I've now exhausted both my Void Banisher charges. Where did you send them? Break demanded. Outside the universe, of course. Alpha replied calmly. I hope I don't need to repeat myself about what will happen to them. You! Well, I've had my fun. And either because of their power, or their ability to raise it in desperate circumstances, those 3 were the only ones among you that worried me. The rest of you, have fun with my guards. She turned back towards the entrance and flitted away, her speed carrying her out of sight before any of them could even begin to react. Dad! Break reached out shakily, clutching at empty air. Goten sank to his knees, fingernails digging bloody gashes into his palms. Damn it! Stay strong, 18 commanded. You've taken a heavy loss, but it'll be worse if you all come to pieces now. Come on, we didn't see them die. You know these people. If there's a way to survive, they've probably already found it. Right. Oob said slowly, unconvinced. You guys go on ahead. Pan mumbled, straightening up and grabbing her forearm to stop its trembling. I'm going to go back and try Raditz's combined form idea. If we're going to fight these guys, I need to be as strong as I possibly can. 18 nodded. Be quick. Not running out on us, are you? Vegeta muttered, only to have Oob immediately round on him, lifting him one-handed into the air by his collar. She wouldn't do that, he hissed. If that's what you think, you don't know her. It's alright. Pan told Oob, turning away. I understand what he's thinking. I know I sound a bit of a wreck, but I'll be back, okay? We don't have time to keep talking about this. Go! With that, she took off, propelling herself back towards West City. I should have done this in the first place. That speed. I had no idea how outclassed we are. You heard the lady. Break said firmly, striding towards the archway that led into the tower. Let's get started before we lose anybody else. The others fell in behind her, and as one, they braved the cavernous, 12-meter maw of an entrance. The interior was not nearly as foreboding as they had imagined. In fact, it was so pleasant as to be positively bizarre. The black stone was almost completely covered in a blanket of flowers, flowing away a great distance in all directions. The plant life continued up the walls, creepers hanging from the high ceiling, and the air smelled fresh and pleasant, giving the disconcerting feeling of having just come outside, rather than in. I can sense a presence now, Oob muttered. Somewhere nearby, but I can't feel any ki at all from outside anymore. Brake nodded. This tower must shield ki sensing. That's why we couldn't sense any of the dragons from the outside. How'd they set this all up so quickly? Goten wondered, kicking a cloud of petals into the air and watching them drift away on the breeze. Enjoying yourselves? A voice spoke, seemingly from everywhere at once. Slowly, a figure reared up above the carpet of vegetation, rising to its full height and sighing. This is Eden Palace, and I am its warden, Gaia Shenron. Gaia was shrouded in a cloak of blue and green, lit oddly from within in a blue and green patchwork pattern that formed, upon closer inspection, the exact shape of the world's continents and oceans. Well then, she said in an off-puttingly calm voice, who shall be the first to die? Alpha, back in her throne atop the tower, smiled. Yes, the remaining fighters won't pose a problem now I've disposed of those three. Gaia will be easily sufficient for all of them. Somewhere, somewhen, somehow. Goku opened his eyes, groggily standing and reaching out a hand to support himself on a nearby metal pillar, sheared off a meter or so above the ground. Whatever it had supported before had been completely incinerated, and the ground beneath his feet was blackened with scorch marks. In fact, as he looked around, he came to realize that the whole area resembled a war zone. Ruined buildings, craters, fires still raging here and there. He also soon came to realize that he was about 4 feet tall, possessed of a tail, and if he had to guess, something like 12 years old. This seemed wrong somehow, but he wasn't entirely sure why, since most of his memory was a complete blank. Come to think of it, he had no idea where he was or how he got there. He took a step forwards, feeling something tap against his waist. He looked down. A rounded metal device was attached to his belt. He blinked, the sight of it giving him a strange feeling. His mouth unconsciously formed around half-remembered words. Radar. Gotta find Dragon Balls. There you are, Kakarot! A voice growled from behind him. He turned, dropping instinctively into a defensive stance, and his eyes widened upon seeing the armored figure stomping towards him over the burnt ground. You failed in your mission, you low-class dog! You were supposed to kill the inhabitants of Earth! A pair of gloved fists clenched. I cannot tolerate failure in my soldiers. Another unfamiliar word rose from the depths of his mind. Vegeta. Gaia Shenron, 18 said to herself, pacing around their unmoving foe. That would explain all the greenery. How observant, Gaia replied evenly. Her voice seemed slightly off, as if echoed by many voices speaking in unison, almost musical. Goten's voice cut across the calm. Can we cut the crap? These shadow dragons just killed my brother and my father! He pointed a finger at Gaia. Get ready for an ass-kicking, lady! Vegeta took a step in front of his friend. Easy. Let's not charge him without knowing anything about our enemy. We don't know they're dead. We don't know they're alive, either! Goten shoved Vegeta aside. Besides, in a couple of hours, we're all going to be dead. So what the hell are we standing around for? He transformed up to Super Saiyan 2, raising his fists. Don't try to stop me. They took my father too, Break added, assuming the same form. So no arguments here. Vegeta's blue-gold aura burst to life next to them as well, completing the trio. So be it. Let's see how this dragon handles 3 Super Saiyans. Cracking his knuckles, he took off moments after the other two, rocketing straight at Gaia. 3 limbs struck out at once, but swung only through an empty cloak of elaborate blue and green. Gaia, now bereft of the cloak and revealed as a reptilian humanoid of patchy black and white coloring, reappeared a few feet above them. She swung an arm downwards, launching a wave of force that hurled the 3 of them back. They regained their balance, skidding to a halt in the tall grass several meters apart, Gaia settling to the ground between them. Let's go! Oob began, but 18 held him back. Wait, she commanded. Could you keep up with their movements just now? I'll be honest, no, Oob admitted. Her ki is enormous, none of us are even close. 18 nodded, releasing him. Then there's no point in charging in trigger happy. But if we let those 3 work off their anger on her by doing the trigger happy bit for us, she'll focus on them. We can catch her off guard. But there's as much of a gap between our powers as it seems from that first exchange, A surprise attack may be our only shot at victory. Damn, Oob muttered. Just have to hope that she's not an indication of the rest. Maybe they put their best, or second best if Alpha really is the strongest, out to guard the door. Break was the first to lunge back in, Gaia catching her fists and stopping her attack effortlessly. The other two Demi-Saiyans were quick to follow up, firing simultaneous energy blasts, which Gaia leapt into the air to avoid, arcing towards the wall and dragging Break after her. She brought her arm up, slamming Break face first into a wall before letting her drop, then disappearing again into a blur of speed. Accompanied by a pair of dull thuds, she materialized between Goten and Vegeta, and a second later they dropped to their knees, coughing blood. 18, deferring to Oob's faster reflexes, glanced over to him. He shook his head. Still no openings. She's incredibly skilled. Break climbed to her feet, almost falling, but managing to remain stable. That stung. Hey, couldn't help noticing when you were pulling me along. What happened to the eye? One of Gaia's eyes was indeed clearly damaged from some old injury, milky white with the faintest hints of a faded scar around the socket. Cut yourself on all these sharp flowers? Humor is a poor way to express denial, or to deal with loss, Gaia responded. You cannot distract your mind from the issue. Your father is dead. You shut your mouth! Break exploded, speeding at Gaia, who dodged a jump kick nonchalantly, sliding away through the field. Gaia shrugged. But since you asked, it was this universe's god of destruction who took this eye from me. She raised a hand to block Goten's punch, aimed at her from behind, catching it without bothering to look around. Beerus? Goten asked even as he pulled back, circling warily. Wait, you've been in this universe before. I have, Gaia replied. I am the Shadow Dragon's scout. Whereas it takes a huge negative energy buildup, such as some of you witnessed earlier, to create a breach wide enough for the 7 of us. When alone I can enter with only the ambient negative energy that exists in every universe. She smiled. And that is because I am the weakest of the Shadow Dragons. What? Vegeta, poised to attack, stopped in his tracks. She's handling 3 of us like nothing, and she's the weakest? Yes, now the futility of your fight dawns on you, Gaia continued. I can see it, you know, in your eyes. You're realizing that it would take a miracle to defeat me. And even if you get your miracle, there are 6 more of us, all stronger even than I. In fact, the tower is set up in order of power. The opponents become more powerful the higher you climb. So I guess that's why Alpha was sitting on top, Oob muttered. Now? Almost, 18 hissed. She's getting even more careless, feeling less threatened by us. That's the only reason she's even been talking and not fighting for this long. Never mind. For before she even finished her sentence, the Super Saiyans had attacked again. Gaia was slowly walking back, hands moving in a blur, blocking 3 attackers' barrages of strikes and a seemingly impenetrable wall of defense. Nearing the wall, she ducked away, coming back around and launching a counterattack, beginning with a low kick that took Vegeta off his feet. As he scrambled for balance, she struck him to the ground with her elbow, and caught Goten and Break by their necks as they lunged in to help. The Shadow Dragon kicked Vegeta back into the air and away across the room, throwing his allies after him and landing them all in a heap in the center of the field. Goten growled. Damn it! Gaia lifted herself into the air, one hand splayed out to the side and rapidly building up energy. I'll end it with this, she declared. No matter how many mortal warriors you send, you'll never compare to a single one of us! There was no verbal signal. It was obvious this was the moment 18 and Oob were looking for. Oob brought his hands down to his side, focusing his ki between them. Ka-me! 18, meanwhile, had sprinted under Gaia until the dragon was between herself and Oob, then leapt straight up at her. Gaia might have noticed her coming, but for 2 important factors. First, thanks to her damaged eye, the cyborg was right in her blind spot. And second, 18 had no detectable ki at all. The first notice Gaia had was a pair of steely fists crashing into her face, sending her tumbling back towards the ground, energy ball extinguishing as she lost focus. What just... me? Gaia glanced around, startled, to see, again too late, Oob swinging his hands forwards and releasing a massive energy wave. Ha! What? She shrieked before being engulfed in the blast, voice drowned out by the titanic explosion of noise. The Council of the Hakaishin existed in the first universe of the 12, which was probably meant to symbolize the centralization of power or something nebulous like that. But Beerus always thought it was there because Cadmus was too lazy to go to anybody else's universe. To be fair, one did sometimes get travel sick using the portals, and no one was really qualified to argue with him. Well, no one but the Dreamer, but getting so much as a full coherent sentence out of her was always an uphill struggle. Acting out of this kind of laziness or self-interest was not uncommon among the 12 gods, which was one of the reasons they all held a great dislike for these meetings. The other being that arguments inevitably broke out, and sometimes arguments led to fights, and they all remembered that fight. The one that left the universe devastated and Hakaishin driven to insanity with grief. They're not going to be happy I dragged them all out here, Beerus grumbled. Hell, I'm not going to be happy to see most of them either. We shrugged. Needs must. You and they will have to get over yourselves and work together for once. Yeah, Beerus nodded. But, man, convincing the whole Hakaishin Council to organize a combined assault on one universe, when they can barely be bothered to meet up in the first place. That's going to take some smooth talking. He scratched his head. I mean, something like this has only ever been organized once, when... well, you know. He hopped down from the raised platform containing the portal, taking a proper look up at the palace for the first time since their arrival. It was a truly magnificent building, swooping and curving up towards the sky in an array of spires and towers, pristine and graceful. Beerus had never liked it. He didn't really approve of curves in architecture. Straight lines, pyramids, cuboids, and geometrically standard things of that ilk had always been more to his taste. Whist usually said he was too narrow-minded, and he usually ignored this. Hey, Beerus said as they traversed the gargantuan causeway leading into the main structure. Give me a refresher on everybody, will you? You don't remember them. They're your kinsmen, Lord Beerus. The Lord was back. They were in public after all, and as far as anyone else knew, Whist was but an attendant. Beerus snorted. My kinsmen, who I haven't seen for several thousand years. Nobody's perfect. Whist smiled. Alright, but I only have the full data file. I won't be able to pick and choose the parts you can't remember. I'll skim read it. Just show me the damn thing before we get in there and I have to admit I don't remember who anybody is. Beyond the borders of possibility. Vegeta? Goku repeated. I remember you. You're an adult, so why am I— Shut up! Vegeta snarled, fist shaking out and shattering the ground, Goku only jumping back at the last moment and avoiding a quick death. He jumped back at the prince. Alright, I don't know what's going on, but if it's a fight you want— However, he was smacked out of the air with ease. Vegeta spat. Is that all, Kakarot? The Earthlings have made you so weak. You're a failure like the rest of your low-class family. Goku growled, pushing himself to his feet. I wish I could remember my family right now. Or anything. What's all this about, anyway? You're not making any sense. You just show up and start insulting me, then try to kill me. Vegeta darted in, striking like a snake and plucking Goku off the ground, lifting him into the air by his neck. Young fighter coughed as Vegeta's grip tightened. Wrong, Kakarot. This is all wrong. You're not using your ki. What's wrong with you? Let go! Goku hissed. Gotta find Dragon Balls. Out of my way! He tugged on Vegeta's hand, trying to pry himself loose. Still nothing. Vegeta continued. All that effort will do nothing for you with mere physical strength. What good is all that power in your body if you don't use it? Do I have to spell everything out for you, clown? Goku was beginning to black out. Power? In my body? More than physical strength. You're not using your ki! Another memory surfaced. Slowly, painfully, Goku grinned. Right. You mean... His foot shot upwards, infused with an otherworldly energy, catching Vegeta's grappling arm at the elbow and wrenching it away. Like this? Freed, he twisted in the air to land on his feet, spinning to face his momentarily stunned attacker, and throwing as hard a punch as he could manage, forcing all his newfound spiritual energy into the attack. Gah! Vegeta was hurled away, feet tearing up the ground as he skidded back into a boulder, cracking it and stumbling a couple of steps away. He looked up, smiling. Yes, that's it! Now killing you might actually be worth it! Huh? Something seemed to catch his attention. He glanced away, narrowing his eyes. Seems somebody's gonna save me the trouble. Come to think of it, if you can beat all of them, and your level keeps improving at this rate, you might actually be a legitimate challenge by the time we meet again. What the hell are you talking about? Goku yelled. I remember Vegeta now. He didn't pull mysterious crap like this. Who are you, really? The prince didn't reply, turning away. I'll be seeing you, Kakarot. He took off, speeding away through the air faster than Goku's eyes could follow. What was up with him? Goku wondered. Whatever. He had more important questions right now. Questions such as, why am I a kid? Why am I in a war zone? And why can't I remember anything except these flashes I keep triggering? He unslung the radar device from his belt. This is about the only thing I've got right now. I don't know what happens when I gather them all, but I get the sense it's something good. One wasn't far from here, so he set off, running at a steady pace over the ruins of what he might once have recognized as a very Earth-like civilization. It didn't take long to hone in on the signal. Within a couple of minutes, he was practically standing on top of it, if the flashing blip on the radar was to be believed. A rummage around revealed something glinting beneath the pile of rubble. He tossed it aside, unearthing the object he instinctively recognized as a Dragon Ball. Barely a second after he picked it up, a strange pressure in his mind alerted him. Someone's coming! Someone strong! He ducked into cover through a ruined doorway, pressing his back to the wall. Kakarot! Kakarot! A gravely voice was saying. Where? I'll kill. A hugely muscled, shirtless Saiyan was trudging his way down the road, stepping oblivious through still burning patches of ground and emerging unharmed. His eyes seemed clouded, vague, indicating that his mind was completely unfocused. Goku took a deep breath, then stepped back out into the street. Vegeta called me that too. If you want to fight me, I won't hide, he shouted. But first tell me why! The man froze, turning slowly on the spot. His eyes fixed on Goku, the haziness vanishing, replaced by pure rage. A wall of ki erupted out of his body, throwing Goku to the ground as a massive green orb blazed to life around. Broly. That's his name. Kakarot! Broly roared, leaving craters beneath his feet as his massively bulked up form advanced on the building Goku had fallen back into. Goku tried to escape, but a giant hand crashed in through the wall, picking him up and slamming him into the ground. What was left of the building tumbling down around them as Broly's aggressive movements pummeled the damaged foundations. Goku felt blood rising in his mouth, his vision blurring. Why does everyone want to kill me today? Acting on instinct again, he formed an energy sphere in his hand, throwing it directly up into Broly's face, but the Juggernaut barely noticed, grimacing slightly at the impact. Yelling incoherently, he threw Goku high into the air. The young Saiyan managed to regain his balance right about at the top of his arc, holding both fists out and rocketing straight back down at his monstrous opponent. Inches from impact, Broly grinned and casually sidestepped, backhanding Goku away across the street. Goku bounced, skidded, rolled, and came to a halt covered in dirt and scrapes. He pushed himself up on his trembling hands, gasping for breath, and hearing heavy footfalls growing louder. Damn it! I don't even know why this is happening! This whole thing is crazy! If only I was stronger! Broly was standing over him now, swinging a lazy kick Goku barely dodged, damaged muscles screaming. He didn't let himself rest, kicking off and darting behind Broly, bouncing and coming up behind the Titan, ramming home a spinning kick directly to the back of his neck. Broly lurched forwards a step, but no more. His elbow shot up and backwards, catching Goku in the stomach before he could react, grounding him again. This time, he did black out, even if only for a second, shaking it off and coughing in the settling dust cloud that had formed upon his latest impact with the road. If only I was stronger! That's a pretty crazy technique you used back there, Tien. So you're, what, even stronger than yourself now? Well, that's a weird way of putting it, Goku. The now familiar rush of a lost memory on Earth flashed through Goku's mind. His eyes snapped wide open. Stronger than yourself! Shakily, he sat up, seeing Broly looking curiously over at him. You're not dead. Broly mutters, seemingly having worked through some of his insane rage and gaining greater coherence as time went on. It shouldn't have taken me this long! Goku forced himself up on one knee, and planted one foot on the ground, then made the final push through to fully standing. Blood ran down his face. His chest heaved with every breath. Come here, he growled. If you keep standing up, I'm just going to kill you quicker! Broly hissed, thundering forwards, charging an energy blast in each hand. Yeah, whatever. Goku wiped one particularly quick flowing stream of blood from his mouth and nose, then clenched his fists. I'm never going to stay down till I'm dead, you hear? My point exactly! Broly laughed. After all these years, traitor, I'm finally going to kill you! Goku's ki began to rise alarmingly quickly, his body vibrating with a sudden surge of power. Sorry, you don't have what it takes. An aura of his own sprung up around him, blowing a gale in all directions, outstripping even the force exuded by Broly's. Kaioken! What? It was like running into an immovable wall. Broly found he couldn't even move a single step further forwards. Goku, at the center of the Crimson Storm, leaned forward slightly. then vanished. The next thing Broly knew, something struck his abdomen with more force than he could comprehend. Beneath a single explosive punch, the legendary Super Saiyan's defensive aura shattered. His skin tore, his blood boiled and evaporated, and the base of his spine liquefied. He remained still for a few seconds as both fighters' auras melted away. Then he pitched forwards, vomiting blood and collapsing in a lifeless heap. Goku took a step back, lowering his steaming fist, feeling worse than ever. Man, whatever it was, it nearly killed me. Stay awake, Goku. Have to get those Dragon Balls. Stay awake. Stay. He made it 3 steps before falling unconscious next to his defeated foe, the city falling silent but for the flicker of dying fires. Council of the Hakaishin. I hope you have a damn good reason for all this, priest, the pilot grumbled, settling into her chair. Beerus nodded, doing his best to remember Whisa's file. The pilot, god of the 10th universe, in love with the concept of speed. She drives from one end of the 10th universe to the other in progressively larger, faster, and more outrageous, magically powered vehicles. And when called on to destroy a world as part of her duty, she simply rammed straight through it in her latest contraption. Whisa even included Beerus himself in the file, under the priest, named for his peculiar dress sense. True names had power in the hands of another divine being, so each Hakaishin went by a pseudonym among their kin, which each had to come up with themselves. Some were imaginative enough to come up with something impressive, others not so much, which led to some rather unthreatening titles. Who, Beerus sometimes wondered, would cower before a god who went by the Fisherman? Anyway, Whisa filed Beerus supposedly for completeness, but Beerus had suspected was more just to annoy him. He rolled his eyes, then turned his attention back to the pilot. Trust me, I know how annoying it is to be dragged out here at all. This is serious. If you say so. Go easy on him, pilot. The god seated next to Beerus said lazily. The Hunter, god of the 4th universe. This one's an old friend of yours, Lord Beerus. I hardly need to jog your memory here, I hope. So much for completeness. The Hunter, his rough outfit of animal furs, a sharp contrast to the pilot's large goggles, bomber jacket, and grease-stained flight suit, was currently making an inordinate attempt to appear relaxed, to the point where he was so sprawled he was practically upside down in his chair. Don't worry about old priest here, he's hardly ever serious, but when he is, he means it. If you say so, the pilot repeated, sighing. Just how long is he going to keep us waiting? Indeed, one space, a larger and more ornate seat than the rest, was conspicuously empty, as several of the Hakaishin were beginning to mumble. After a few more minutes of idle bickering and empty small talk, the Knight, the armored god of the 3rd universe, stood, clearing his throat. I have received word, he declared, tapping his head and indicating a telepathic message. The Red King will now join us. Cadmus, the Red King, he long ago revealed his true name as a display of his supreme confidence in his own power, was something vaguely approaching the leader of the Hakaishin. An actual ruler would not have been able to manage such individualistic and ill-tempered subjects. He had risen to this position of leadership partially through being joint in the running for the strongest of the gods, but also because the others grudgingly had to admit that he was good at it. Management, counsel, wisdom. He excelled in these fields far beyond any of them. When he stood in through the arched doorway, he appeared as a great lion carrying a burning, miniature sun in his mouth, padding over to the still-standing knight. Cadmus was a peculiar creature and required a particular ritual to appear in his true form for an extended period of time. For this, he relied on his lieutenant, Mercury the Knight, the only other Hakaishin with the known true name among the others, the revelation of which was the requirement for his assuming the position of second in command, a sign of trust and assurance of loyalty. After another unseen signal, Mercury began the ritual, and in a move that would have shocked any who had not witnessed this process before, plunged his sword down into the lion's back, piercing through it and out of its body beneath. Taking a step back, the knight bowed, letting the rest of the ritual take place. The lion swallowed the sun in a quick gulp, even as its body began to turn into a formless mass of green liquid, starting from the point the sword had impaled and spreading outwards. Soon the creature had fully melted, and before long the sword vanished into the seething puddle of primordial matter. A second or so later, the crowned head broke the surface, a humanoid figure slowly rising from the pool, the liquid swirling around him and vanishing, transfigured into the biomass that formed his body. A regally robed man with a stern expression, a true form of the Red King. Beerus yawned. Ah, man, that takes forever. Impressive, and kind of weird the first time. A little repetitive since then, the fisherman concurred. the Fisherman, god of the 5th universe. Seriously, that's the name he chose. At least it seems accurate. That's pretty much all he does. Comes here much more often than the rest of you. Often hangs around with the Dreamer. Extremely lazy. You have to wonder if he ever actually does his job. Beerus chuckled. All you do is sit by a lake all day. I would have thought repetitive would be fine with you. The Fisherman shrugged, but said nothing. The Red King had taken his seat and was about to speak. Eden Palace. Do you know why that attack failed to kill me? Gaia Shenron asked. She waved the smoke trails away from herself, emerging completely unharmed. It was an impressive attempt, I'll grant you. A perfect plan. To catch me off guard, knock me off balance, then hit me with your best shot at close range. But, of course, doomed to fail from the start. Damn it! 18 growled. Her arms ached from the blow she'd struck. She got the sense her punch had hurt her more than it hurt Gaia. Okay, I'll bite. Oob added, lowering his arms from the Kamehameha position, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He'd put a lot of energy into that blast. Why didn't it work? Gaia nodded. Are you aware of the concept of mortal, demigod, and divine ki? Goten blinked. Huh? Yeah, those are all the same words Gohan used. But Beerus didn't tell him all those. How come you know Gohan's word for it? The one who created your universe took a few shortcuts, Gaia answered. Certain concepts like that are subconsciously associated with those names in your brain, even before you're aware of them. How do you know all this? Break demanded. Wait, she said Beerus gave her that scar. Hold on. Don't tell me Beerus created the universe. He's the god of destruction, not creation. That he is, Gaia replied. The creator was not Beerus. But back to my original point. You are, all of you, possessed of varying levels of mortal ki. We shadow dragons, on the other hand, have demigod ki, aside from Alpha Shenron, who is on the full divine level. And the level I've been fighting at up until now isn't even close to my full power. Do you understand now? Quite a challenge, 18 conceded. But there's something you should know. Aside from me, none of these fighters have used their full power yet. Interesting. Gaia scanned the room. Care to demonstrate? Hell yes! Goten stepped up. Vegeta, ready? Of course. Vegeta positioned himself next to his ally. Let's start straight in Super Saiyan 2, huh? Right. Fusion! Ha! The dance was performed perfectly. Gogeta, electric sparks flying through the air surrounding him, was formed in front of Gaia, the Fuse Warrior looking serious for once. And now, Shadow Dragon, here's the ass-kicking Goten promised you! Wasting no time, he leapt, sliding a punch around Gaia's attempted block and snapping her head to the side, before sidestepping her counterpunch, but she got her arm up in time to block his return strike. He's matching me, she realized, parrying a few rapid kicks Gogeta threw as he broke off, jumping away. He actually already possesses some level of demigod ki. Did he awaken the Super Saiyan's hidden potential for it through an emotional crisis? Like the other half-breed shortly before his ascension to godhood? No, it's their fusion technique that gives them their enormous strength. That's the most common way of achieving demigod ki, after all. Simply pushing mortal ki past its limits and into that higher realm. Wow, Gogeta, Break said, whistling. That's some awesome power you've got there. You've really grown up. We don't have any time to waste, Gogeta replied sternly. You guys go on through. I'll deal with this when and catch up. Quite the bold statement, Gaia taunted. But my duty is to guard this level, and I won't just let... Gogeta's hand shot up, and a constricting ring of ki formed around her, immobilizing her. I can't keep this thing up forever, he warned. Go! Now! Right. Oob gave a thumbs up to Gogeta, before turning and running for the opposite end of the room alongside 18 and Break. You better win! 18 warned as they passed through the small door. Alone with his opponent, Gogeta grinned lopsidedly. That won't be a problem. Gaia merely narrowed her eyes, then was gone, leaving Gogeta's energy ring surrounding nothing but air. Gaia appeared a few meters behind Gogeta, fist raised. He dived forwards, avoiding the punch and rolled to his feet, delivering a back kick as he spun to face her. She ducked backwards under it, throwing a close-range energy blast, which he deflected away into the ceiling. He breathed, wiping sweat from his forehead. Pretty good. You too, Gaia replied. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to kill you. You're going to try. Gaia said nothing, merely raised her hand. There was no energy buildup. With frightening speed, a pure white energy bolt emerged, rocketing forwards. Gogeta twitched to the side, watching it pass millimeters from his face, then continued on past it, detonating against the seemingly indestructible wall behind, throwing out a blast wave that almost knocked him flat.
That was fast!
He paused, suddenly recognizing the unique energy signature, and staring at Gaia with new respect.
Was that a spirit bomb?
Gogeta has given time for 18, Oob, and Break to advance further into the tower, leaving him alone against Gaia Shenron. Will he be able to conquer this seemingly insurmountable foe? And what about Goku? What's going on? Why is he a kid? Why are there Saiyans that are previously killed after him? And why is he hunting the Dragon Balls? What of his brother, Raditz? And will the Council of the Hakaishin be able to assist our heroes? And is Gohan truly gone for good? Find out next time on Even Further Beyond.